Hey, folks, welcome to the pre show. We say that every night. Nothing original about that. Welcome to the pre show. It's Monday. We are all set up and ready to fly. Make sure my sound is up. Oh, I wanted to check one thing. I saw a tad bit of the Sunday morning show and rebroadcast. I want to make sure my audio is set right. Internal microphone, no. That's why it sounded funny. There we go. That should be better. Thought the microphone sounded funny yesterday. I hope it wasn't like that for several different broadcasts. There we go. All right. We're just about ready to roll at 3 minutes after the top of the hour. We go live on the radio station. For those of you who have been here many times before, you know this. Whoa, hello. Oh, I jumped right off of my desk. All right. Get a couple of things in order here. My seat. We have 1 minute, just over 1 minute left. We go live. Boom, we'll do that. And I think we're ready to roll. Are you ready? Are you ready to go? Hey, Randall Flagg, good to see you. 1 minute left. Less than a minute, and we go live over on the radio station, and we start this broadcast in earnest. There we go. I got to hit that big light because that is the studio light, not the radio broadcast light. There we go. Much better. Let's rock and roll. That's right. Here we go. We're going dark. Be right back. Sit tight.
The Intrepid radio program with Scotty Roberts. Intelligent talk.
Hey, folks, welcome to the program. I'm your host, Scotty Roberts. This is my show, the Intrepid radio program, right here on the Odyssey Radio Network, Subspace Odyssey to be exact. You can find us over at odysseyradio.com. That's ODYSY radio.com. Come on over, see all the goodness that's Odyssey Radio, and it's only an audio. It's radio. So if you want to join the chat room or watch the video simulcast at the same time, come on over to the YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/Scotty Roberts, where you can join the chat room and you can view the show in living color. And so thank you for being here. Everybody, if you are not a member in either place, if you're not a member over at my YouTube channel, hit the little join button below. You can see how you can become a member. You can go over to my Patreon, patreon.com, Patreon, patreon.com, and /Scotty Roberts. And you can also join and help this show move forward so we can do some things. And we aren't getting an awful lot of new people over there. So if you have people that you think would enjoy this show, spread the word. And I can only do so much. I do the show 3 times a week on good weeks. And if you like the show, help spread the word, help support the show. Maybe we can do some better, cooler things as we get there. So thank you all for being here. And I'm going to talk one of my favorite topics tonight, which is Star Trek. I love Star Trek. I grew up on Star Trek. I grew up on Star Trek more than I grew up on Star Wars. Star Wars did not hit the theaters until I was, let's see, it was the summer of 1977. So I was to turn 17 years old in November of 77. So I was 16 years old. I was a junior in high school when Star Wars hit the big screen for the first time in 1977. And I loved it. We saw it a bunch of times. And then, of course, The Empire Strikes Back came in 1980, I think it was, 79 or 80. And then, of course, Indiana Jones came out after that, and the series of those films, and Lucasfilms, and all of that. And Star Trek had come back as a movie franchise in 1979 with Star Trek the Motion Picture, the big re-release that all the Trekkies out there in the world were anticipating with bated breath, as they say. And we got our Star Trek revived. It had gone off the air in 1968, and so it revived in 1979. So it was 11 years later. 12 years, actually, technically, if you do all the months and all of that. And so Star Trek came out in 12 years. Didn't seem like anything now that it's been, Star Trek's been around since 1966. And so at the same time as you had Star Wars out there, and Star Wars releasing films every couple of years, then you had Star Trek doing the same thing. 1979 was Star Trek the Motion Picture. 1982 was Star Trek The Wrath of Khan. And that's where I think Star Trek really hit its second set of legs again, was with Wrath of Khan. And then, of course, 5 or 6 different movies. I want to think it went all the way up to Star Trek 11 or 12. Let's see. They had Star Trek The Motion Picture, then Wrath of Khan, then Search for Spock, then the one with the whales, the voyage home. Then you had 5, The Undiscovered Country, and 6 was 5 The Undiscovered Country? Yes. And 6 was, I wish Captain Stuart Foley was here, because I'm missing out my order of things. Was Undiscovered Country, was that 5? The one with the God alien, the God thing, and Spock's brother and all of that. That was, I think, Undiscovered Country. And then the next one with, what was the one with Christopher Plummer playing the Klingon general? And that was 6. 5 was Undiscovered Country. 6 Undiscovered Country? What was 5? The one with the God guy, the God alien. Excuse me, what does God need with a starship? Final Frontier. That's right, Final Frontier. And then, of course, after The Undiscovered Country, wasn't that Generations, where they did the crossover to Star Trek The Next Generation? And then, of course, Generation had its own movies and its own run of movies. So Star Wars, of course, had the initial 3, and then they came out with the second set of 3. Back when, I don't remember the dates as well on those. I believe I was in Detroit working as a creative director with an ad agency, and the copywriter and I ditched work one afternoon after lunch, and we went and watched the first of the new 3 trilogies. So it'd be episode 1, Phantom Menace. And we thought, I hope they do better than this. Jar Jar Binks didn't send me at all. And I thought, they're really going for the kid audience with this. And there it is. Josh Kemp. 5 was The Final Frontier. And then 6 was The Undiscovered Country. I was trying to think, because 6 had that Shakespearean flair to it. A lot of Shakespeare in that, from Hamlet to, and they talked about The Undiscovered Country, which was a Shakespeare line. And I knew I was in that play, and I knew I was mixing the titles up. Jar Jar is the secret Sith Lord. Yeah, that's for sure. I was going to do my Jar Jar Binks impression, but I don't think I will. So then you had those three films, the first of which was I don't give the kid who played young Anakin Skywalker a lot of crap. I just think the production, making with the bangs and the shag haircut and all of that, it just didn't work for me. It didn't work because they made a too kid thing with the racers and all of that. It was obviously a way to build games and video games and stuff like that off of it. It gave me not a good impression. And then after Phantom Menace was the second one, whatever that was called, the second one of the second trilogy. And then the third one of the second trilogy, with Anakin growing up and becoming you were the chosen one, with Ewan McGregor, of course, playing the young Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Liam Neeson playing Qui-Gon Jinn, his master. And then you had the third three, of course, with damn it, what was the girl's name in that? Not Ren. Kylo Ren was the bad guy. He was the Darth Vader kind of character, but he wasn't really. It didn't quite work for me, anyway. I think literarily, if that's a word, when writers write these things, it sounds great on paper. It's a story. It's a science fiction story. But then, yes, Scotty, we don't needs not a Jar Jar's voice. Yeah, I'm not even going to do it. And so the third trilogy of Star Wars actually worked for me a little better. I liked it. It was okay. And Ren, what was the girl's name in that? Doesn't matter. But see, that's the impression it made on me. I'm not even remembering the character names like I used to remember the character names of everything else. Star Trek and Star Wars. All of that palaver there to say that I grew up on the original. I am old enough. I am on that cusp between baby boomers and what was the next generation after baby boomers? It was the Gen X. So it was on the cusp. I was born at the tail end of the baby boomer era, late 1960, November of 1960. And so I was 6 years old when Star Trek hit the airwaves, just about 6 years old, and just about 8 years old when it went off the air. And then I grew up on continuous reruns of that, and could have quoted any episode. I knew all the titles. I still could name most of the titles for you. And the ignored generation, says Randall Flagg. Yeah, we were the in-betweens. Adam Douglas, yes. Adam Douglas, he was the no, I'm thinking of Adams. Never mind. And never mind. Moving on. It was a random thought. So I got into a little conversation with Dan Madsen this afternoon, who may or may not be listening. We were talking about Star Trek and Star Wars and things like that. Right now, as many of you know that are my regular listeners, my three kids, Rainey's and my three kids, are all in Disney World with my older daughters and one of the husbands, my son-in-law, Zach. And they've got him for the week down there at Disney World. And so Rainey and I are home alone this week, still trying to figure out what to do with our spare time. But anyway, I'll take suggestions in the chat room. So I got all kinds of pictures from them today, and I reposted them on my Facebook, all the stuff they've been doing. And they hit Galaxy's Edge or End, Galaxy's End or Edge, Galaxy's End. The Star Wars land, I refer to it as, at Disney World. And so I saw all kinds of pictures today. Them on the Millennium Falcon and standing in front of the life-size Millennium Falcon and all of that stuff. It was fantastic. the pictures they were sending. So that made me think. And when Dan and I were talking, we were talking about Trek, we were talking about Star Wars and things like that in and out between a business conversation we had going. And it made me think, let's just talk about this tonight. There are differences, obvious differences between Star Trek and Star Wars. Hey, Leslie Holker, you can't compare the two. Exactly. That's really what I'm going to be getting at, to let the cat out of the bag, to give you the climax of the story before you get reading into it. So that's really kind of where I have been on this, but I want to go through some of this and give you what people are looking at and saying, these are the differences, and this is what exists out there. And I've got some things, they got like the 10 major differences between the two, the similarities between the two. How do they compare? What else have I got here? I had called up an article on Trump reverses the course and won't testify in his New York trial again. And I think that's a good thing. But I'm not going to get into that. It'll be politics. We'll save that one for now. I want to get into this and cover this in more detail. But I've got the 10 fundamental differences between Star Wars and Star Trek. I've got Star Wars versus Star Trek. How do they really compare? And so I think we're gonna start by kind of looking at that. How do Star Trek and Star Wars compare? There's this kind of faux battle that goes on, raging between the two. Which is the better series of TV shows or films? Was it Star Trek or Star Wars? What kind of cultural effect did they all have? Let's see. Wait, what does Steph say? Wait, Scotty, you don't know how to spend your time? Shame. I said that rather tongue in cheek, Steph. You probably figured that one out. I bet, let's see, replace one of their bedrooms with a hot tub and a sauna. That's what my mom always threatened me with. That would be great. We have thought about that, but we've actually thought about it down here because we've got the master bedroom down here. And we've got all that space over there. Rainey's studio is there. We got a family room over there. And we thought we could just take one corner of that and do up a walk-in jacuzzi, bathroom, shower, walk-in shower, all down here and all of that. So Josh Kemp says, love the Trek TV show. Me too, brother. Like I say, I grew up on that. My hero was Captain Kirk. That's undeniable. That's how I grew up. And that's what I hailed to. Captain, there's a large triangular shaped craft sending a threatening hail to us, says Jason. Thank you, Jason. Let's see. What do you put? Mr. Chekhov, take a photon torpedo and set a timed warhead and beam it directly to their bridge. There you go. Now, that was some of the solutions in the shows to things. So you've probably seen movies like, how about Star Wars Rogue One? A Star Wars story. I thought that was a fantastic Star Wars film. It's the story that you only hear in the original Star Wars movie. They refer to Rogue One as this squad, not really a squad, a group that stole the plans of the Death Star and got it to the Resistance. And so they made a movie out of that. Who were these people? What happened to them? So Rogue One. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit as we dig into this a little bit, talking about Star Wars versus Star Trek. And Star Wars versus Star Trek each has its own particular appeal to people. Sure, there's similarities beyond just, I got my lights too bright. It's making me squint. Don't mind me. I'm going to turn down my light a little bit. There we go. And there's similarities, and it's beyond just the name Star, the word Star, and the two different titles. And it goes beyond just space travel. And in what ways do these two franchises differ? What's the unique appeal of each one? And that's kind of what I want to dig into a bit tonight. This isn't a grand, earth-shaking type of show we're doing tonight that's going to determine the outcomes of governments or determine how we are going to survive our marriages or our troubles and heal things. This is a show about fun. It's pop culture. Leslie says, my late husband wanted to go to Star Wars for his birthday. I figured I could get comfy in my seat and take a nap. Then the bar scene hit, and I found it fascinating. Dun, 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 dun. You remember that? I need to go full picture. Thank you, Leslie. I don't look over at that, and I forget. Let's take the header down. Boom, like that. And while we're here, let's just put the show header up, the marquee. There we go. Got the marquee up, and we might as well just hit the banners as well. Boom. Thank you, Leslie. I would have totally forgotten all about that. There you go, she says. All right. And by the way, before I get too deep into the show, I mentioned yesterday, I am going to be setting up on a very serious note, personal matter, I'm going to be setting up a GoFundMe for Ruben Fasthorse. I was talking to Susie. She's listed as his next of kin. They aren't married, but they've been together for 8+ years. And so she's making some decisions for him. And they already took him off of ICU, and they're going to be putting him into a rehabilitation home. You could say it's like saying they're putting him in a nursing home to help him rehabilitate, to learn again how to speak, how to walk, how to do, and see if he gets that far. And so they have a big insurance problem right now, and a lot of this is not covered. And so Susie is just draining her bank accounts already. So I think what I'd like us to do, those of you who enjoyed Ruben here, who are friends of this show, I'm going to put up a GoFundMe. I'll announce it. I was going to try to do that today, and I was just buried in client work today. And so sometime over the next day or two, I'm going to get that up and running, and I'll let you know. We'll announce it. Yeah, go Team Trek, Ryan Gale. Damn straight. Make it so. Engage. Energize. So, yeah, Ruben has great spirit, and he's a great fighter. And we still don't know for sure. I don't know for sure if everything he's suffering is because of the traumatic head injury or that mimics some of the same symptoms as having a stroke, or if because of that injury, he had a major stroke. Because, the inability to speak, the inability to form sentences, he recognizes Susie, but he can't speak. So his vocal center has been messed with. Probably his writing as well, but he hasn't been in a situation, I don't think, where he's been able to even test his writing abilities. He was paralyzed on one half of his body. And he lost a lot of weight. He went down to 130 pounds the last I heard. So they're going to put him in a rehabilitation home, and they're going to see how that works. And Susie, Ruben will be taken care of. If it becomes a ward of the state or something like that, I don't know how they work that in New York State. They can't just throw him out on the street or send him home. So they're going to treat him. Susie, however, is going to need some help getting back and forth, doing what she needs to do to maintain her household. Meanwhile, she's got some of the same problems from an old traumatic head injury of her own. So I will let you know when that gets up next couple of days. And exactly, Leslie. That has to be utterly frustrating for such an eloquent speaker as Ruben to not be able to speak. And yeah, that's the thing. You all know Ruben. If he can't speak and articulate without being confused now in English, He's a linguist and he teaches Lakota. I have no idea what has happened to his brain with that. Will he ever regain that? Everything he's learned for years about his native language. So Leslie says, I hope it's a home that actually gives a shit about rehabilitating him, not just making money off his presence. I do too. So we'll see what's going on in the next, hopefully this week we'll know how things are moving and I'll report in. And by Wednesday, I will hopefully have a GoFundMe set up. Anything you guys can do to help Ruben out, we'll leave that thing open. And I'm sure you can give more than one time to something like that. But we're going to set it up so to help Ruben out. It's not going to be indefinite, but it's going to be open. I'm planning to have it open for a while so they can draw off of it as they need it and that it can be replenished and so on and so on. So there we go. I'll give you more information as that becomes available as I get this thing up and running for them. So back to how these things really compare. For me, I love both of those franchises. I love their cultural significance. This is what they both represent. Their different approaches to storytelling. Star Trek gave us our favorite Vulcan, who we lost not long ago, just a few years ago. Leonard Nimoy died. And Star Wars gave us our beloved Princess Leia, who passed away. I don't even know how many years ago that is now, 5 or 6 years ago. And so pop culturally, they gave us entertainment. They gave us, look at everything Star Wars and Star Trek that exists out there. And you get an idea how it affected our culture, at least in the West, especially in the West, how it affected us on a pop cultural level. But there's also the more esoteric of how it affected us all. There was the 50th anniversary of Star Trek. That would have been in 2006. 2016 would have been the 60th anniversary of Star Trek. And all of that just passed. And there was more Star Trek movies that were out. They've now made new movies as of starting in 2009. J.J. Abrams took over the franchise. And that's where we had Chris Pine and Zachary Quinto reprising the roles of Kirk and Spock in Star Trek. Star Wars, we've seen all kinds of movies coming out, all kinds of series, animated series. That's right, Sarah. She died just a few days after her mother, her very famous mother. Why am I going blank on that? Eddie Fisher was her dad. Debbie Reynolds was her mother. So I'm going to compare and contrast primarily Star Trek, the original series, and the original Star Wars trilogy, episodes 4, 5, and 6. And that's what I'm going to use to do my comparisons, because that's really where it all began for both of those franchises. And there's going to be a few tidbits from other movies and series and things, and all throughout the canon there. But we're going to look at the differences in story structure, the character relationships, the literary genres, the cosmologies, the religions, the time frames, governmental models, and the respective cultural contributions of each. And Dan Madsen, when he launched his Star Trek official fan club newsletter, he caught the attention of, and I don't remember how. We'll have Dan on again, and we'll do kind of a revival of the interview and the story of Dan and how he did what he did. But he got the attention of Gene Roddenberry, the creator of Star Trek. And so for his Star Trek official fan club newsletter, well, that's when he became official. Roddenberry, he had the first license to create something like that. And he went from a Xerox folded in half stapled newsletter into something that was full color magazine. And he built his own little empire out of Aurora, Colorado. And that's when I met Dan. In 1982, 83 maybe. It was the year I met Dan. And he was at the height of his beginnings. And then, of course, it wasn't through the same people, but he met, and I can't remember how he told me he met George Lucas and Spielberg, but he landed the licensure to do the Star Wars official fan club magazine. And he went on to do more of those, and he did the Lucasfilms magazine. He did the Indiana Jones magazine, and he did all these different fanzines. And he had at one time about 150 people working for him. And they had their own store where you could, this is really pre-internet of going on and just ordering anything you want online, like at Amazon. This was a store through their magazine, and you could buy all kinds of cool stuff, Star Trek memorabilia type of stuff, and toys and all of that. So, Sarah, why are you pushing me to get to the list? The list isn't even the first part of what I'm doing here tonight. This isn't a list. I'm just going through here a lot of the stuff. And then I got a list. If we get to it, I've got another list. So we'll get there maybe. We'll see how it goes. And so these two cultural memes are inexorably connected. George Lucas admits that he was inspired to create Star Wars by watching Star Trek, and among other influences. And after Star Wars, he became this enormous, unexpected success in 1977. Paramount Television, who had bought Desilu Productions with its original property Star Trek, wondered how they could cash in on this sci-fi space craze. And they looked around at their intellectual properties, and Star Trek was hastily rushed to the big screen 2 years after Star Wars came out. And it was a major motion picture in 79. It made lots of money, and it was sufficient to continue the franchise as a movie series. And admittedly, these two franchises are among the most popular in modern media, crossing TV, film, books, comics, animated series, games, merchandising of all sorts. Star Wars had been much more financially lucrative, starting in film and selling more tickets and more merchandise. And Star Trek began with a larger corpus of content, 79 episodes on TV in the 60s, and in syndication compared to Star Wars' original 3 movie episodes that spanned almost a decade. And so it went from arc to episodic. Star Wars, the story was an epic arc, as multi-hour major movie events across 3 episodes, while Star Trek already had 79 one-hour episodes across 3 years. And Star Trek was able to introduce lots of characters. Some were recurring, while others lasted only 1 episode, or if wearing a red shirt, only a few minutes until the next commercial. But Star Wars had this much more limited set of characters they could introduce and maintain focus upon, while lots of minor characters passed in and out of the story. So what were the relationships, too? You look at the sole hero's journey. And this is important when you think of how Joseph Campbell was a big influence for George Lucas. It's the sole hero's journey versus a triangular one. And Star Wars takes the approach of the hero's journey, as Lucas described what he'd learned from Joseph Campbell's book, The Hero with 1,000 Faces, which we've referred to on this show many times. And he read that in college on mythological archetypes. And it's the departure into adventure, the initiation of the hero, the crossing, the return threshold. It includes Luke's struggles through adolescence on Tatooine, which you only see a little bit of that. You know, you see him already as the teenager that leaves. You see the temperatures and the challenges of epic struggles, the striving for competency, and the reconciliation with the father figure, the apotheosis, and the ultimate success. And so in that sense, It's the story of a singular, solitary individual, Luke Skywalker. In the case of Star Wars and the initial trilogy, the whole story is the arc of Luke Skywalker. Now, later, after all 9 movies were made, it was Lucas who said, I really intended this to be an arc about Anakin Skywalker. I don't know if that's how he originated it, but he said he always had 9 episodes in his head for these movies. Just didn't know how it was going to go. In the larger context, this whole movie franchise, the struggle of Luke in the framework of the greater narrative, his father, Anakin Skywalker, and his fall to the dark side and his final redemption with his son Luke's help to defeat the evil emperor and to bring balance to the Force, thereby fulfilling the prophecy. And it was Lucas who said that it really changed into this as the movie series went on. He says, if I could, now that it's all done, rename it, he says, I'd rename all 9 movies instead of Star Wars. It would be something like, if I remember right, the Rise and Fall of Anakin Skywalker, or the Rise, Fall, and Rise, the Fall and Rise of Anakin Skywalker. And so, yeah, Yoda, Pearl Jones, you seek Yoda. So the whole thing is about Luke's journey, or Darth Vader's. So in a sense, both Lucas, and Lucas had conceived Darth Vader as his first character for the original Star Wars. The prequel, episodes 1, 2, and 3, told his story, which was submerged in episodes 4, 5, and 6, where Luke emerges as the hero and Darth Vader is redeemed by his son to bring balance to the Force by overthrowing the evil emperor. And in another sense, it's the story witnessed by the observers, R2-D2, C-3PO. These droids are the only characters featured in all 9 episodes. I'm trying to read my own writing. In all 9 episodes, plus Rogue One. And these 2 are the very first characters we see in the original Star Wars movie. Remember that? They're the first 2 you encounter and that talk with each other. I loved Obi-Wan Kenobi. He's our only hope, Leslie. So Star Trek took a different approach. It focused primarily on 3 characters, a triumvirate of players. You had Kirk, Spock, and McCoy. And it didn't start out that way, but it evolved that way. Initially, William Shatner's Captain Kirk was the star after, of course, they lost Jeffrey Hunter, who was in the first premiere episode, pilot episode. And so William Shatner came on as Kirk. He was the star. It was the mid-1960s, and that's just the way he was, the leading man of the series. But Leonard Nimoy's Mr. Spock became so popular a character that he almost overshadowed the intrepid Captain Kirk. So soon, in addition to the logical Vulcan, DeForest Kelley was featured in the opening credits as Dr. McCoy, Bones. And so the evolution of their relationship between these 3 allowed such characters to bloom differently. And with Shatner's robust and vocal portrayal of the captain, in contrast to the rather internal portrayal by Jeffrey Hunter as Captain Pike, which, by the way, Anson Mount has done a fantastic job. Dan and I hit on that a little bit in our fun conversation today as well. He has done an outstanding job as Captain Pike in Strange New Worlds. If you have not seen that, you should. If you like Star Trek at all, you're going to enjoy it. Nimoy, he could afford to play a more reserved, more internal, more cerebral Spock. And Spock's yin to Kirk's yang was what a lot of the show started to follow. Spock was stoic, seemingly unemotional in his portrayal of the half-alien first officer. His otherness was personified. McCoy was openly emotional and, damn it, Jim, and you green-blooded Vulcan, and he was openly emotional and often impetuous. And Kirk was intuitive. He was inspired in his problem-solving approach in the captain's chair. It was a very stable triumvirate that evolved out of those initially sole characters. So the genre was a big difference. Sci-fi versus space fantasy. We think of Star Wars as being sci-fi. It's space fantasy. Star Trek put the science into science fiction. The plot hinged on all the technical capabilities and limitations of the one character in the show that was one of the most important characters of the show, the USS Enterprise. The resolutions were frequently based on scientific solutions. There were ship blueprints, technical journals available for fans. I had the first big book of the Star Trek technical journals back in the mid-1970s. Many scientific advances have occurred in the last 50 years that were inspired by Star Trek. Here's just a few of the examples, if you didn't know this. And all these people, these men and women who developed these things over the last 50 years, said that they really got their initial calling to do what they did because they were fans of Star Trek when they were kids. The invention of the StarTAC mobile flip phone by Motorola, like the communicator, like this thing. You remember the flip phones? And they didn't have the beep like that, but some did. You know, they tried to mimic Star Trek. But the flip phones, I had a flip phone. When I first got my first phone, was a flip phone, late 90s. There's a prototype of the tractor beam at the University of St. Andrews. There's a voice-activated computing that's come out of Siri or developed into Siri and Google's ubiquitous computing and all of that. Scanadu, which is a medical tricorder, has come out. Matter replication was foreshadowed with the advent of 3D printing. Imagine what we can do eventually when you have, are we ever going to have matter recreation? Like that's the whole concept behind the replicators where they ate their food on the Enterprise, the holodecks. Imagine what we can do now with gaming. Give it another 50 years. Where do you think we'll be if we don't destroy ourselves first? Aluminum oxynitride, ALON. It's a transparent aluminum. And that came out of Star Trek. Cisco from Deep Space Nine, his telepresence, a hyper form of HD telecommunication across multiple locations. All of those things were invented by people that were fans of Star Trek and got their initial impetus to do what they're doing because they were fans of the show when they were kids. Star Wars, on the other hand, took a very different approach than Star Trek. While faster than light hyperdrive travel in that universe is considered normal, she'll make 0.5 past light speed. She'll do the Kessel run in, what was it, how many parsecs? Those of you who are Star Trek fans, or Star Wars fans. And Death Star weapons of mass destruction are common. The vibe is more fantasy in Star Wars. Space fantasy, or as they called it, the space opera was what Star Wars was. It's more space fantasy than science fiction. It's true that it pays tribute to all the older science fiction adventure serials of Flash Gordon, Buck Rogers, stuff like that, with its text scroll at the beginning of each of the Star Wars saga movies, and noticeably absent from the anthology movies like Rogue One. However, it's more attuned to mythic fairy tales in space than traditional hard science fiction. More accurately, it's called the space opera. And I remember seeing some of the initial ads for Star Wars when I was a teenager, and you saw Luke. Remember the scene where they're the big core where they drop off, and Obi-Wan's supposed to, turn off the shields, and they're on that little bridge, and they're being shot at by the stormtroopers, and Luke pulls out his little rope and he takes Leia and swings across the chasm. That was very fantasy oriented. Robin Hood. Back then, 50 years ago, that's what came to mind when I saw that stuff. So there's a move toward the more mythic and noble weapons of a bygone era in Star Wars. It's not just ray guns or phasers, as they were called in Star Trek. You had the lightsaber. This is your father's lightsaber. Remember Obi-Wan Kenobi giving that to. And of course, there's all kinds of jokes that have come out of that since the other movies. This is your father's lightsaber. With it, he killed 300 children. So moving away from that for a minute. So it was a noble weapon rather than a blaster, which is what Han Solo wore. Smuggler, pirate. We do, however, have a greater emphasis on robotic prosthetics in Star Wars, especially with missing limbs. We saw Luke obtain the new artificial hand. You remember that? The droid is putting pins to it to make sure all the fingers work, and that he had feeling in them. We saw Luke, he obtained the artificial hand in episode 5. And in the prequel, Anakin, Darth Vader, gained hands, legs, respiratory apparatus in episode 3. And while robotic and android creatures pop up in various episodes, it's not until Star Trek The Next Generation that we have an android bridge crewman in the character Data. And Star Wars has androids everywhere, or droids, they called them. Man, these are the droids you're looking for. So also in Star Wars and Star Trek, you had cosmology, showed the differences. The physics versus the psi, PSI, the psi. If science is the major in Star Trek and space fantasy is the major in Star Wars, there's a fundamental cosmological difference between the two universes. Star Trek leans more on physics and astronomy. As Scotty would say, you cannot change the laws of physics. I've got to have 30 minutes. You can't change the laws of physics. Star Wars asks a similar question, but comes up with a completely different answer. There's no cultus of religion in the first Star Wars movie, but we do hear Admiral Motti in the first movie say to Darth Vader on the Death Star, "Don't try to frighten us with your sorcerer's ways, Lord Vader. Your devotion to that ancient religion has not helped you conjure up the stolen data tapes or given you the clairvoyance enough to find the rebels' hidden fort. ... As Darth, puts the stranglehold on him with the Force. And he replies, I wish I had the bass voice of Darth Vader. I find your lack of faith disturbing. So Star Wars suggests this psychic level of reality, and it's beyond the observable empirical science. Luke is encouraged to trust the Force, Luke. Turn off your tracking device. Trust the Force. Rather than his targeting computer by Obi-Wan Kenobi as he approaches the reactor exhaust port at the end of the first movie. So there's the whole science or physics versus the phi, the PSI, the psi. Then there's religion itself. Do you know that there is a Jedi religion that was founded? Great Britain, I think, is where it first started. And they're very serious about that. I got a book on it over here. And I got it for Flynn because I thought it was really interesting. I started looking at it. It's a pretty serious book. So the religion is negative versus positive. Beyond the science versus psi issue is the topic of religion. Star Trek looks upon organized religion really rather negatively. It kind of reflects the attitude of a lot of scientists of the day. And Star Trek creator Gene Roddenberry was a far cry from being an atheist. He was raised Southern Baptist. His mom took him to church each week when he was young. However, from his teens and onward, he dismissed it all. And he dismissed all organized religion. Roddenberry said, "It's not true that I don't believe in God. I believe in a kind of God," he said. "It's just not other people's God. I reject religion. I accept the notion of God." That's what Roddenberry said. And he would have called himself a humanist. Nevertheless, when Star Trek featured religion, it was either unflattering or negative, and it was always something that I had a quote of Spock's that I don't have in front of me now. We put it on a coffee mug, and it says, "I find it highly illogical." I wish I had that in front of me so I could read the quote. I'm going to see if I can find it very quickly. If I've got that mug up on my Etsy or not, I don't know. And which you can go to my Etsy page and buy products over there. Just saying. Etsy.com/shop/son of a patriot. If you were asking about it. So let me go look at this. I want to get to, it's got like 8 different clicks to get there. Let's see if I've got it up here. And if I do, I don't. It's gone. It dropped off. Maybe it'll come up in my head a little later and I can quote it for you. But here are some of the episodes that Star Trek of the original series give you an example of how they treated religion. In the show The Apple, remember this was with Val, the big cave that looked like a serpent, and all the people with the white skin or the blue skin and all that, and they had to do what Val said. And primitive natives on this planet are required to make sacrifices to their god, Val. He's a dragon-like idol that is the face of an underground computer. And of course, it all gets back to computers, doesn't it? I'm going to see if I can find this from The Apple. Let's just see if that quote is here. These are some of the things that Spock said in that show, The Apple. Let's see. "Precisely, Captain, and in a manner of speaking, we have given the people of Val the apple, the knowledge of good and evil, if you will, as a result of which they too have been driven out of paradise." That's him talking about that. And he said something about how he found it highly illogical that someone would worship. And it's not coming to me. So I'm going to skip it for now because I can't think of it. And what do we got? We're already down to about 4.5 minutes left. But the next one was "Who Mourns for Adonis?" That's the Greek god. Apollo is actually a space traveler of this race. And the god Apollo requires worship. And Kirk says they have no need for the gods, finding the one sufficient. Kirk said, "We found the one sufficient." Monotheism being expressed in Star Trek by Kirk. The next episode, "For the world is hollow, and I have touched the sky." The citizens of Yonida are highly religious, practicing blind faith in the oracle they worship. Wrong thinking is punished by implanted devices that deliver shocks, and the oracle is actually a computer on a generation ship. Then you have the return of the Archons. The simple inhabitants are required to be part of the body, and our body with a capital B, and are controlled by cloaked lawgivers who are directed by the omnipotent Landru. But during the Red Hour, they become violent and sexually aggressive, and Landru is actually a 6,000-year-old computer gone wrong. And there's only one episode, and I remember this from when I was a kid. There was one episode where religion, specifically Christianity, is depicted positively. And it's not identified until the very end of the episode. The episode Bread and Circuses. Do you remember that? They're on a planet where it's kind of a the Roman Empire versus what would have been Christianity, the slave revolt, and all of. They come down in the middle of this. And the landing party is forced to fight in 20th century Roman gladiatorial games, though they hear that the children of the sun would resist this. And rather than helping a primitive religion of superstition, Lieutenant Uhura, in the very end of the show, she has discovered through her monitoring of the planet's broadcasts, she said, Captain, and she's talking to Captain Spock because they're talking about what they had encountered. She said, they're not worshiping the sun up in the sky. It's the Son of God. And Kirk and Spock were like, the lights came on. Dun, 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 dun. The ship flies off, and it's the end of the episode. And very cool episode. And as the series went on, we saw the emergence of Vulcan mysticism, meditation, mental skills. And well known are the ways that Leonard Nimoy incorporated his Jewish heritage with, live long and prosper. It's a Jewish hand symbol in synagogue. The heritage of the priestly blessing, he turned that into the Vulcan salute of live long and prosper. And to be sure, Star Trek dealt with immorality plays, often thinly cloaked discussions of contemporary politics. And it wrestled with issues around colonialism, with its prime directive to not infect primitive civilizations with advanced Federation technology. Star Wars was positive toward religion. And this is the last mini point we've got to take. But Obi-Wan Kenobi first tells Han Solo about the Force directing a lightsaber. And Solo replies incredulously, I've flown from one side of this galaxy to the other. I've seen a lot of strange stuff, but I've never seen anything make me believe there's one all-powerful force controlling everything. There's no mystical energy field controls my destiny. It's all a lot of simple tricks and nonsense. Hocus pocus, he refers to it in one spot. And at the end, what does he say to Luke? Hey, Luke, may the Force be with you. So there you go, folks. We got to wrap it up for the radio audience. We're going to talk about this more in the captain's cabin. If you're there on the radio and you want to join us, come on over to youtube.com/Scotty Roberts. Until then, live long and prosper. Boom.
Join us every weeknight at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, 10 p.m. Eastern. The Intrepid radio program, a Scotty Roberts Productions broadcast.
Hey folks, this is Scotty Roberts, and this is the Intrepid radio broadcast. I've been broadcasting for about 20 years now, covering such topics as science, politics, the paranormal, weird science, weird world history, archaeology, and the paranormal. Everything from ghosts to cryptids to creepy things that go bump in the night. So every week I bring you 3 new episodes. Come and join my channel and also be a patron to this site. So see the details below, and we'll see you here. Well, welcome back to the Captain's Cabin, our little after show. Those of you not familiar with what we do here after the radio audience leaves, it's just us over in the chat room. And we've got the Captain's Cabin going on, and you can join in and talk with us a little bit about tonight's topic, and we'll have a lot of fun with that. So if you weren't here for the earlier part of the show, we're talking about Star Trek and Star Wars and talking about some of the esoterics behind it, how each show had its own approach to things. And I rather like what this stuff here. I'm going to tell you, this is for Sarah. At the end of all of this, I've got these 10 fundamental differences between Star Wars and Star Trek. And it's basically kind of a recap. But these were the 10 points I had. Number 10 in a backward sequencing here. Star Wars takes place in another galaxy and in another time. Okay. That's the main point. Then I can go in and break it all down. Number 9, Star Trek feels more futuristic, while Star Wars feels weirdly contemporary, even though they've got the technology. Have you seen some of the new series? Very gritty and dirty. I loved the Obi-Wan series, or Kenobi. It was Kenobi with that just came out this last year. Earlier this year, or was it last year? Fantastic. I think it was a 8-part series that aired. If you have not seen that and you're a Star Wars fan, shame on you. It was really well done. And I got to tell you, I liked one feature of that series. Darth Vader became evil again, and even more evil and dark than he seemed originally. He seemed almost comic bookish dark in the original series because of the kind of entertainment it was. In this Kenobi series, they brought it down. I mean, they came down, and it was dark. And it was supposed to be Obi-Wan Kenobi after the events of the Clone Wars and before he meets Luke as an old man, when he's an old man. And it's around the time of the birth of Luke, when Luke and Leia would have been small children. And he's in hiding. And Vader's looking for him. And so on. And Vader is quite dark. Wow. Just to say he's dark and evil, that doesn't do justice to that if you've seen that particular little series. So anyway, that was number 9. So Trek feels more futuristic. Star Wars feels more weirdly contemporary. Number 8, in Star Trek, technobabble generally saves the day. All right. Way more than Star Wars, which was known more for philosophy, I guess. Star Trek had technobabble. Then you had number 7, Star Wars is way more mystical. There's the mystics. There's the meeting with the Council of Jedi and all of that. Number 6, Star Trek plays with philosophy and questions morality in complicated ways. Star Trek was very complicated when they hit those philosophical issues. Star Wars was a lot more subtle, but subtle as a brick to the head. Let's put it that way. So maybe not more subtle. They were subtle like a brick to the head. And Star Trek had always been known for getting more philosophical and musing on the nature of morality. And Star Trek delved into how a futuristic society could comport itself and how people should treat each other. Number 5, Star Wars is more about the spectacle than anything else. Yeah, the Prime Directive, Sarah, exactly. Yeah, and a bit steampunk for Star Wars. So Star Wars was about the spectacle. And the limited television budget that Star Trek had, as I heard it put, I think it was David Gerald who wrote The Making of Star Trek. Same guy who wrote The Trouble with Tribbles wrote The Making of Star Trek, I think it was. And he said, I had that book when I was a kid, paperback about that thick, just worn out, full of pictures and stuff from the production. And there was something about him saying the bridge was built out of plastic and balsa wood, you know? So, and that's pretty true. Some of the most memorable parts of Star Wars have all this explosive action to them. Fantastic set pieces, lightsaber battles. Spectacle has always been one of the most important parts of Star Wars, and it overshadows just about everything else. Here's your lightsaber. What did he say? Take your lightsaber, strike me down with it. The Emperor. So, number 4, Star Trek characters are frankly, even though you have aliens represented, they're much more realistic. One of Star Trek's strengths over Star Wars is how realistic the characters can be in comparison. And how much more screen time Star Trek characters get than Star Wars ones. With Star Wars, there's not even enough time to get too far into the characters. And even the TV shows concentrate more on the action than the characters for the most part. So Star Trek characters go through so much more than Star Wars because there's more content just by virtue of the kind of production it is. And this makes the characters more realistic, allowing the audience to understand them and their completeness better, their complexities. So, yeah, Riker came into his own when he got the beard. I would have to agree. Yeah, Samuel L. Jackson wanted a purple lightsaber, so Disney gave it to him. Professor Bauer says Lucille Ball saved Star Trek when all of the studios panned it. Well, Star Trek had done under CBS. They had done their first pilot with Captain Pike and Spock, and the TV censor boards had said too sophisticated and deep for the public mind. That's what they said of that. And it later came out during the series as the 2-part, the Menagerie, when Spock kidnaps his old captain, Captain Pike, who's incapacitated. And so it eventually aired, but in 2 parts. So it was after that first pilot that they were going to shit can Star Trek. They were going to put the expense into doing another one. And Lucille Ball came along and said, Desilu Studios, we'll buy it. And we'll take it. We'll do it. And they did. So Star Trek exists today because of Lucille Ball. So I love Lucy. Whole nother meaning for Star Trek fans. So what does Lucky Stone say? Star Trek pilot. A woman is second in command? Impossible. Exactly. And there were so many stereotypes that they broke with that show. A woman is second in command, an alien who had a major role. And Spock wasn't as major a role in the original series as he became. Remember, he wasn't the first officer in the original. He was the science officer. And there were other things, You're talking during the Cold War, and you've got a Russian ensign on the bridge. And you've got a Japanese man 20 years after the end of World War II on the bridge with Sulu. You had, of course, Nichelle Nichols playing Uhura, a black woman on the bridge. And that was just unheard of in the late 60s. So, yeah, Sneakers was a good movie. I remember that. It was a good show. And let's see. Schwartz, J.P. Schwartz, lightsaber, other names for the male anatomy that were used jokingly. That's why I made the water comment. It didn't go over well. Oh, I missed it, so I couldn't comment on it. I'll have to look that one up back there. So, yeah, Riker directed Generations with Shatner and Picard, one of the best that they've done. Now, I like that. I thought the best Star Trek movie, if you were to rate them all, it would have to be the sensation that Wrath of Khan made, my opinion. That was the best Star Trek movie. I thought the next best one was The Undiscovered Country with Christopher Plummer playing the Klingon general. I also thought First Contact, which was directed by Jonathan Frakes, was pretty amazing. And Dan and I were talking today about season 3 of Picard. And Dan actually said to me today, he says, you can throw out seasons 1 and 2 of Picard. He says, once season 3 hit. Season 3 was probably the finest. If you have not seen it, I'm going to tell you this, and you got to trust me on this. You got to trust my word on Star Trek. And Dan would say the same thing. Season 3 of Picard was probably the finest season of Star Trek ever made since the original series. Yeah, First Contact was superb. Fantastic film. Jonathan Frakes did a lot of directing in Picard. And Patrick Stewart wants to do another Picard movie. He wants to reunite the Next Generation's cast for one last go, he says. He says, while I still can do it. So he's really pushing it. And I think it's going to happen. And as a motion picture. And so, yeah, a lot of good stuff. Chemistry and nostalgia, says Sarah. Yes. And Jonathan Frakes, I would love to see him direct that movie. If that goes into, if a Picard movie goes into production. I love what Riker became under the tutelage of Frakes directing. And why am I skipping out on his name? The guy that's the head of the production now of Star Trek, like the new Gene Roddenberry type. Under his hand, Picard season 3 became what it became. And Riker became this incredible character. Very deep. A lot of depth to Riker. There it is, Metallus. And as long as he's in control of a Picard motion picture, I think it can do no wrong. So, number 3 in this list of 10 I had, number 3 is that Star Wars is all about war. There's a big difference with Star Trek right in its name. The word war instead of Trek. That was one of the great lines from First Contact, too. When he finds out they're all from the future and part of the Federation, he says, so you're all on some kind of Star Trek then, right? It's a great line from the movie when he's trying to figure it out. Zephyr Cochrane. Anyway, so the only parts of Star Wars that canon that hasn't really entirely dealt with the war are The Mandalorian and The Phantom Menace, those two. And both of which have this conflict, looming war at their core. And this focus on war limits the stories that Star Wars can tell. And while it makes for exciting viewing, it doesn't make for diverse storytelling because it's all really focused on that. Sarah says Wesley Crusher is definitely in the doghouse for not contacting his mother at all in Picard Season 3. That's true. Well, you know what happened to Wesley Crusher, don't you? Sarah, do you remember what happened to Wesley Crusher? They dealt with it in one episode of, I think, an early episode of Picard. First season or second season. Wasn't third season. Do you remember the character, the Traveler, in the Next Generation series? He was this character that was out of time and place. Different dimension. Yeah, different dimension. And Wesley was inducted into that. He was asked to become a traveler. And there's even film footage of it. So he's with the Travelers. And he has become a traveler. He's like a Doctor Who type, you could say, in a different dimension. So I saw some footage of that. And so that's what happened to... No excuses, says Sarah. You never... Don't call your mom. It's Sarah. So number 2, Star Trek is about exploration and learning to get along. And Star Trek's always gone in different directions. Most Star Trek shows are about exploration, bringing people together, and the conflicts that can rise out of both of those things, shining light on contemporary issues. And while there's conflicts in Star Trek, it's not the focus. And even when it was, like in Star Trek Deep Space Nine, it was more about the price of war and how it affected those who fought it than the war itself. So while newer Star Trek shows get flack because they focus more on the action than the philosophy and the exploration, for the most part, Star Trek is more humanistic in its approach to fiction and to storytelling. And then, of course, number 1, Star Wars is inspired by Joseph Campbell's monomyth structure. When Lucas wrote Star Wars, we alluded to this earlier in the show, and he structured the story, he borrowed heavily from Joseph Campbell's Hero with 1,000 Faces. Campbell looked at the myths from around the world and he found a similar story structure. And Lucas used this structure when creating the Star Wars narrative, which helped the stories resonate with audiences all around the world. And this familiar story structure helped the Star Wars saga scratch an inch for heroic storytelling that made it appeal to a broader audience. And combining Campbellian monomyth with scientific fiction, this was an inspired choice and one that paid dividends for them. So those were the 10 things. That was the list, Sarah. And that was in addition to the stuff I didn't finish. So I sometimes start a show and think I don't have enough information to carry me through the show. And usually I get through not even half of what I've got. Yep, he became a traveler, JP. Yeah, we've already had the Bell riots, quote unquote, says JP. Bring on World War III so we can get warp drive and first contact with the Vulcans. Boom. I think that'd be cool. So, Marina Sirtis, I'm seeing a picture of her on here, who played Counselor Troy. She was hot, if you don't mind my saying so. But I met her once in person, and I ended up not liking her, and I don't like watching her. I don't like seeing her. I have to really turn off what I experienced when I met her as opposed to what I see in the character. I have to just watch it for the character. It's like there's certain actors. I can't watch anything of Robert De Niro anymore because I think he's a putz. And not just the anti-Trumpism, it's the anti and his vocal about. It's like, shut up. You just ruined your whole acting career for me because I can't watch it without seeing your stances on things. Same thing. There's other actors that are like that. I'm sure some people the other way around have that with some actors. Some people can't watch John Voight anymore because they know he supports Donald Trump. Well, Marina Sirtis, she was good looking in the old series, and her part is very important in Star Trek: The Next Generation's cast. But when I met her, she was very rude. Probably she may have perceived me as being rude, but I don't think so. She was just being rude. I told this story once before. It was at an event at the Mall of America. They had the Star Trek exhibit there for a long time, and there were some of the cast members there. She was one of them. This is many years ago now. This is 20 years ago or more. And she's at the table signing autographs, and I bought one of her 8x10 slicks so I could get her autograph. And we're at the table, and she was talking to one of the handlers on the other side of the table. They're talking out loud. We can all hear what they're saying. It's not like you had to go, oh, what are they talking about? They were talking about going out to eat after the signing event. And I said, going out to eat. I said, Minneapolis, a great place. I said, where are you guys planning on going? And I wasn't trying to be a fanboy so I could crash their private little party, which is, I think, how she took what I said. I said, oh, where are you guys going to go eat? Because I know Minneapolis well. It's a pretty cool restaurant scene. And she looked up at me and she goes, that's not really any of your business. I said, excuse me. I said, I don't need your autograph either. And I walked out. And for me, it was like, excuse the fuck out of me. And now that I look back on it, she's a celebrity in a very famous show at the time. It was, I think it was already off the air because it went off the air in 94. So it would have been between 94 and 2000 was when this event took place at the Mall of America. Yeah, Troy is stunning. She still is. But now the actress put me off. That's a whole nother topic, a psych topic. But she put me off big time in my head. And I thought, whenever I see her now, I cannot get out of my brain her looking at me and going, none of your business. I'm like, well, fuck you too. Just a fan. Just asking. I'm an adult. I'm not a weird kid. Oh, I see we got guys lined up here. We got Professor Bauer and we got Michael Brewer.
Hey, how you doing, fellas?
Professor, I just brought you in and now you're gone. I saw you moving.
Beam me up, Scotty.
Oh, that happened to Jason with John Delancey? Really? I thought John Delancey was supposed to be kind of cool. What did John Delancey do? You better call in, JP. We got to tell us the story now. Here, I'll put the, if you don't have it handy, I'll put the link. Although Professor and Michael found the link,
We're smart, average bear.
We're smart, SMRT.
He's smart.
So,
you talking about the pop culture part, and I had a lot of thoughts running through my head. And when you said Crusher or whatever, he actually played on the Big Bang Theory as Will Wheaton, as himself.
Yeah.
And what really got me was they said the guy who played Shelton didn't know shit about Star Wars, Star Trek, or any of that.
Nice.
That he was just good at reading and writing a script. But no, but
wasn't it Nimoy? Didn't Nimoy do a spot on Big Bang Theory too?
He did it, and I know the whole big thing was that when Penny or whatever her name was, the blonde girl, Kelly, whatever, bought him a placemat that had his spittle on it. He's like, "Oh, I can clone my own Spock." She's like, "Oh, ain't it enough?" Had a signature on it. She said, "Oh, look, he signed it." He's like, "Who gives a fuck? I can clone my own Spock."
I can clone my own.
Yeah. But no,
nice.
But you think about it. These two series opened up a whole realm that even the Sci-Fi Channel. That's what, at one time, everybody got into, and that's what lets me know that we're into the information age right now.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to push the boundaries of the next possible thing. I've seen a lot of things. JP probably has
problem
too.
though is Sci-Fi Channel went a little too full tilt boogie with the shitty B movies, and
Same thing happened to MTV back in the early 90s when they went from music to God knows whatever they are now.
Yeah.
But they have been a part of a lot of major movies. Apparently, they've got MTV Productions, and I see their little stamp of.
There was something they had angsty. I want to call it. This is a longer title than I'm sure the working title, but angsty goth teenagers travel around in an RV and make angsty comments about everything. That was the working title in my head, and I saw a couple of those, and it was all right.
Well, I tell you what, actually, I've been watching an MTV series or an MTV Studios series here lately. It's called Lawmen, Bass Reeves.
Oh, I heard that's really good. I didn't know that was MTV.
Really good. It is really good.
I've heard that.
Maybe this will be a redeeming kind of thing for MTV.
Yeah.
Well, everybody's going to pick on us for no longer showing music. We might as well do something productive.
Are you old enough to remember? I want my MTV.
MTV.
Dire Straits, baby.
I was in boot camp in the Marine Corps. Boot camp in the Marine Corps, and when I found out I was going home because of my back, I was on very light duty. I was doing stuff like, now no innuendos here, I was polishing brass in the officers' lounge, and
waxing his carrot.
My drill instructor, he would come in, we became pretty good friends, and he came in and he goes, you can hang out in here, watch TV. He says, just if anybody comes in, just start working. And so I remember Madonna on the first I ever saw Madonna was in a gondola in Venice doing Like a Virgin. It was just, that's the scene that comes into my mind. It was on the TV in the officers' lounge.
So here we go though. Who was the first group to air on MTV, and what was the song?
I thought it wasn't Nirvana.
No.
Shows you what I know.
I think it was the Monkees.
Nope.
You sure?
Positive.
Okay.
Who
was it?
It was the Buggles with "Video Killed the Radio Star."
Oh,
wow! Who killed the radio star? MTV. The Buttholes, you said?
The Buggles?
Oh, the Buttholes.
Bug.
Oh, the Bug Holes.
Buggles, not holes.
Buggles. Okay, Buggles, like a muggle. Gotcha.
Yeah.
No, I didn't see that.
Jay here. I think John's doing good. 1981 was the debut of MTV.
Yep. Yeah. So I have to throw this out since you brought up your experience with Marina Sirtis.
Yes. Yes.
One, that is not the first I have heard somebody say that about her. I have heard other people be like, she's kind of a jerk in person.
Yeah.
And then you see some of her political responses with stuff and like posts she makes, and you're like, no. But so my similar experience was with John Delancey, Q. Yeah. And it was at the Star Trek One Weekend on Earth 30th anniversary convention held at the Von Braun Civic Center in Huntsville, Alabama. And it was a one weekend only event. It didn't travel around or anything like that. Right there
in Huntsville. Oh wait, wrong song. Go ahead.
And I was going through the vendor section with my dad. I was in 8th grade, and I was dressed as an ensign. I was not so pompous that I would get the full 4 pips on the collar.
Right.
You know how
you had a Star Trek uniform at age 8?
8th grade. 8th grade. So like 12, 13. Okay. Yeah. And
cool.
so walking by down through the vendor rows, and there's a vendor setup that is selling cardboard stand-ins. And who was sitting there or standing there talking with the vendor guy but John Delancey and his little dude publicist, I don't know, handler, whatever you want to call
publicist him. Handler dude. Yeah, those guys.
In some like gray shark skin suit looking like a greasy,
Yep.
Yeah, and
you can't talk to him. You just put your picture down and he'll sign it and you move along.
Oh, they didn't even speak to me. They didn't acknowledge my existence. There I am. All I wanted to do was just, hey, I said hi to Q, man. Like, how cool is that? And I'm just like, hey, excuse me, Mr. Delancey. And he's like looking at cardboard cutouts, ignored me every time I said it, and then walked out and blew me off. I was like,
he just blew you off. He just ignored you.
Like, what the hell, dude? Like, guys like me are the reason you have a paycheck.
Yeah.
Be a little less highfalutin. You can be a little more appreciative.
I tell you, the complete opposite of that, not Star Trek related, but celebrity related. We were at the Mall of America when Sean Astin, who played Samwise Gamgees in Lord of the Rings, was there signing his book, There and Back Again. It was his book about all the experiences filming the trilogy of movies.
He was also the ball turret gunner in Memphis Belle.
That's right. And so we're there, and I've got my son Sam, who at the time was about 4. And he had that plastic sword of Sting, this thing, in his belt. And you can see up close, it's just a plastic thing, and the sound chip is long time worn out. But it would do the ching ching, and the blade here, it's partially transparent. It lights up blue.
Nice.
And so Sam had that shoved in his belt, and we were buying the book. My daughters were with me. A girl friend of mine was with us, and so we're there, and we get up front. And there's the handler, and they stop you before you get to the table. So you're coming up onto the platform, and they go, you can just take your book and you set it down, and Sean will sign it for you. Don't speak to him. Don't just move on. And I'm like, fuck you, was my reaction. But, you go along with it. You do the rules. And so we get up there, and he's sitting and he's signing, and he looks up and he sees Sam, and Sam is so bashful, even though Samwise was his favorite character, the namesake. I mean, he was running around doing Samwise and all of that when he was 4. And he had this belt, and I'm holding him. He wanted me to pick him up, and he's got his head on my shoulder, and he's looking that way, not looking forward. I go, hey, Sam. I said, we're here with Samwise. And we get up there, and much to his credit, Sean Astin looks at Sam, and he goes, well, hey there. He says, did I hear your dad call you Sam? He said, what a fantastic name. Is it really Samwise? He said. And I got Sam to look, and he goes, what's that in your belt? And he goes, can I see that? And he pulls this out, and he goes, that's Sting. He says, that's gotten me out of a lot of messes. He says, and he stood up. And he reaches over and he pats Sam on the back and he looks at his sword and he talks to him. I can see the handler who had just told us, and don't stop and don't talk to him and put your book down. He's over there like going, we've got a line here, Yeah. And Sean asked, like, I don't care. I'm talking to this guy. And so he was the total opposite.
Oh yeah, no, and it's great. It's great when celebs are like that. Well, and so at that same convention where John Delancey was a tool and will forever be a tool, in my eyes, no matter how good of a job he did in Picard season 3. Let's see, Janice Rand, the gal who played Janice Rand,
yes,
and then Uhura. Sulu, so Takei was there. So yeah, you had God, what is her name that played Janice Rand? I can't think of it.
I gotta look it up.
It wasn't Majel Barrett, because Majel Barrett, Roddenberry was Nurse Chapel.
That was Roddenberry's wife.
Yeah.
Janice Rand, Grace Lee Whitney.
Yes. So she was there, and then it was Nichelle Nichols and George Takei and several other people down the line, all on a table. I had nothing to sign, right? Like I didn't, have all kinds of memorabilia.
Right.
I was a kid on a budget, and things like that. And
You didn't stick your arm out or offer a chest?
no. But like I sat there and like they took the time to just say hi and just a little bit back and forth. But it's like when you're this major Trekkie as a kid, and you have all these people from TOS who are sitting there, it's like,
yep.
Now Shatner was a tool and didn't show up, but
yeah.
Right.
Or as Will Wheaton would say, "God damn William Shatner."
Shut up, Wesley.
I want to chime in on this actor hatred kind of thing, where disliking the personality, because there's a couple of aspects of this. One, I've been railing for years of all these damn artists getting up in their performances and doing some kind of ideological political pitch on, whatever victimhood and whatever they've decided.
It's painful.
I've said for at least 10 years, shut up and do your art, because that's why people are here. They're not here for your opinions. And I also,
I don't want to know your politics.
And also because I'm also an artist and I've been through doing the whole music thing and performing and doing all that kind of shit. I know how the difference between the art that the talent can express and the personality that they express.
Yeah.
You've got to be able to separate those two and realize that just because they're idiots on the outside, when they go do their thing, they're badass. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, having said that, have you guys seen all the latest bullshit about nobody wants to work with De Niro?
Yeah, probably.
Denzel
I just talked about
Washington
De Niro.
Denzel said, "I'm out." I think it was The Rock said,
yes,
"Nope, don't want to do it."
Ain't doing it.
This guy is a pathetic piece of shit.
He is. I have lost all respect. I used to love De Niro for his acting abilities. I loved him in everything. And once he got hyper political, and you can be in politics, you can be an actor and go, I don't really like Trump, but I'm not going to talk about that stuff. It's not my thing. I'm here to be an actor for you.
What happened?
I can overlook anything, if I disagree with them. So what?
Yeah.
But he has made it a thing to be hyper nasty. And it's like, you know what? You lost me. You lost anybody who used to like you that supports a candidate you don't like or a politician you don't like. You've just lost them.
And he brought it into the conversation.
And that's what he did.
Speaking of that, Disney now owns Star Wars. And even with The Mandalorian, they got rid of the girl that posted her political views, but the other guy could go as left as he wanted to go.
Yeah.
And he patted him on the back. He posted picture of kids in cages that was happened under a different administration, not even the Trump's administration.
Yeah.
But quick as she rebuked him for it, they said, "Oh no, you got to go."
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, and right now Disney is having a pissing contest with my boy Elon, which you don't want to pick a fight with a man who can buy your fucking company. He bought Twitter just to prove a point. And right now,
one of my favorite the action superhero sci-fi shit is the whole Marvel universe stuff. Their latest movies, the Marvels, and then when they had Captain Marvel or whatever it was with Brie, whoever she is, she's another one who opened her mouth and people just said, I don't want to go watch somebody with that attitude.
Yeah.
And ain't she the one that worked?
Before that, the Avengers, all of those movies are some of the most spectacularly well-written and produced series, in my opinion. And Disney owns that.
Now, was anybody else as disappointed as I was in the fact that? Oh, there you go.
You'll have to explain this one, Sarah. Go ahead, Jason.
Oh, was anyone else initially as disappointed as I was that we didn't get David Hasselhoff as Nick Fury?
Oh God!
Look,
I'm so here's crushed.
Here's my thing. Right. So when I grew up with Nick Fury, right,
He was a white guy.
It was a white guy, right? But the thing is Nick Fury had been that literally for generations, because it was Sergeant Fury and his Howling Commandos, right? And it went all through World War II and up through, but Star Trek wins because Disney bought Star Wars.
Boom! Christ brings his sword. Spot on.
Well, but it always kind of bugged me that there ends up being these deviations from things that had been established for so long, right? Now, don't get me wrong. I love Samuel L. Jackson, and
I do too.
I would love to have him and Morgan Freeman actually narrate my life at just various points, right?
Yes.
Because they would just do perfectly.
At a very young
age. You'd be like the whole, when he narrated Inglorious Bastards, it's like,
yes,
you go Stiglitz.
Yes.
But like, for me, having grown up with something and then having such a switch, that turned me off for a little bit. And then Samuel L. Jackson's Nick Fury grew on me, but it took a little while because that wasn't the archetype that had been established for decades. And it's always a little frustrating when they do that, like it's why? Like, can you not find somebody who can actually fill the role? Because for me, Nick Fury has always been and will always be a disgruntled war vet white dude with an iPad.
That's like, by the way,
gouged out by a Nazi, by the way, not by a space cat.
Yep. Brings a sword. I just want to say the once and future Kirk.
The once and future Kirk.
What was I thinking? That's like I had heard they wanted to do a live Johnny Quest, live action Johnny Quest, which could be cool if it was done right.
Well, they,
but they were talking about making Race Bannon a woman.
You can't do that. Race Bannon's been the same guy up at C-Lab 2020.
Well, you guys remember Flash Gordon, right?
Yeah. Kind of.
Yeah. And
you old guys.
And then it became Flesh Gordon, and I know that went to movie.
Yeah. But even he had staying power because he come over in the TED. Flash Gordon did, because the guy who played him actually played himself in the movie. Trying to pull it out of the gutter here for you, Scotty.
Nice.
No, I know where the professor's going with that. Yeah.
The staying power comment was perfect. I just
well, and just while I've got a few minutes of the floor here, there's one thing that I did want to say when I was listening to the show earlier, and Scotty, you went through a great summary of the history between the two and all of that.
Yeah.
And, it took me back because, as I've said many times, if you want to do time travel, just go to a memory, listen to some music that you grew up with, and, you're going to have that time travel experience. So I was getting a little bit of that, and I was thinking about two things, one on each one of these particular series. When Star Trek first came out in, 66 or 68? Yeah, I think it was 66. I had heard that it was coming on. I was 9, I guess, and I had a friend, and I remembered his name, Wayne Lamont, and he was a tall black kid with a big fro. So this is late 60s, and we were both totally into sci-fi. He invited me over to his house, and his mom let us watch the premiere in black and white.
Wow!
So I saw the very first episode when it first aired, and that just at that point I was already looking at remember the Pan Am ships, the big planes, and I had a Saturn V rocket and the LEM model that I'd put all together. So I was really into that. But when I saw that Star Trek, I went, "Uh-oh, here we go!" And then the second thing is, so I watched the entire first series and just absorbed it. Later into the 70s, so now I'm around 19 or 20, and this thing comes out, and I'm with my buds, and I'm playing in a band, playing my guitar. We are consuming copious amounts of extracurricular activities. And we all piled into a van. We went to the Newport Cinema, which was a brand new theater they just opened. It was the first one with the massive air conditioning and THX sound system and all of that. And we sat out in the van, and I think it was 4 or 5 of us. We consumed a case of beer, a half a bag of weed, and some chocolate mescaline.
He said we were the VW van.
So we then went into I think it was the opening night. And we sat about 6 rows from the front, and the air conditioning was just, I mean, you could feel it. So we brought joints. We hit a joint. The smoke just dissipated. It was like, wow, this is awesome. So when that first battle cruiser comes in, at first the words were like, whoa, what's that say the fuck up there? And it kept scrolling, trying to read it. And then that battle cruiser came in. And I'm just here to tell you that I saw Star Wars in Mesca color.
Nice.
It was the VW van, right? You was in the VW van with a little badge on the front.
No, we had remember the van conversions that were all the big deal back in the mid 70s?
Yeah. With the shag carpet and the air
shag carpet, yep.
Yeah,
and
sound systems.
A little porthole in the back.
Yeah, that's what we were. So
it's made for loving. That's where the flesh wouldn't come in. But you're talking about Star Wars and
I think we had that VHS in the van.
But you're forgetting about one of the stars when it comes into the title that everybody misses out on. That's Stargate.
Stargate was pretty good.
I have another one for you that I'm probably the only one here who remembers it, but it was a cartoon, and it came before Star Wars, released in Japan and then brought to the States. Star Blazers.
Oh,
I remember Star Blazers,
but originally Space Battleship Yamato or Uchu Senkan Yamato.
Right.
Yeah.
What was the other one that they had on Sci-Fi? It was they had the little blue girl that was kind of slutty and had a guy with the whatever. What was it?
Farscape?
Yeah, Farscape.
Farscape.
Yeah.
That was pretty. That was a Henson Studio production. Those were all Muppets. It's very sophisticated compared to Sesame Street, but.
Well, how about Thunderbirds, gentlemen?
Oh, Lord.
Yes, the original.
Oh,
I think I will take the.
I wouldn't miss that for nothing.
All right, see you, Captain. Marionette.
They did a cartoon of Thunderbirds, right?
More staying power than Lost in Space.
Yeah, they did a cartoon version of Thunderbirds, and it was Thunderbirds 2086, and that's when I grew up watching. That was.
What about My Favorite Martian?
Oh yes, with Ray
Martin.
It was Ray Martin, wasn't it?
I think something like that. Yeah,
he was in the Star Trek.
Yeah,
he played Weatherby or something like that was his name. He was the groundskeeper gardener at the Starfleet Academy.
Yep.
That had been there for, what's his name?
Boothby.
Yeah.
Oh, I need to come up with my own. What was it? Tobiyashi Maru test.
Yeah, Tobiyashi
Maru.
Yes. I can't even say it right now. Had to go get a cough. My nose is all stopped up, but he said, "Damn it, Jim, you cheated."
I changed the conditions.
Yeah, because I don't believe in a no-win scenario.
But the whole scenario behind it was to let them know, sooner or later you go into battle, you're going to lose people.
Right.
And Jim said, no, I'm not. Fuck you. But I remember.
I'm only going to lose people with red shirts on my ship. God damn it!
I like that in Wrath of Khan. He said something like, "Was it David, his son, who we find out later is his son?"
Yeah.
It said something about, we just don't have time to just sit here, so we're just going to sit here. We don't have time. And I like that. Kirk's got the apple and he looks at his watch. He goes, "Yes, we do."
You remember in First Contact when Troy got shit-faced trying to talk and just telling we don't. There's no time to talk about time.
That's right.
Hammered out, 3 sheets of the wind. It was awesome.
That was pretty good.
We talking about who's your captain, who's your doctor, whatever. Kurt was always my captain until the new captain took over. And for her age, that woman is still hot as hell.
Which one?
7 and 9.
Oh yeah.
7. Oh yeah.
Oh,
Jerry Ryan.
Jerry Ryan.
Oh yeah.
Jerry Ryan, like
Younger
she's one of
than
those
me.
people that just doesn't age.
No.
Ages at a glacial pace. Like it's
Yes.
time
Yeah,
has been
she's in the
burning.
new
She's
she's in the Picard series too. Yeah.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
sure some of that is her profession. It helps keep her that way.
Yeah,
But,
I don't know.
so
But yeah, like I said, Kurt was always my captain until she became captain of the Enterprise, and I'm like, got to swap teams here. Just got to.
Oh, in the latest Picard.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I don't. I always had a deep appreciation for Janeway.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
she's all right.
There were some things where it was like, seriously, you're going to wander around the Delta Quadrant as you meander your way home, getting into all. Just take the most direct route, dude.
Right.
Like, but at the same time, she was a strong female character. Having daughters was great because I could point to an example of, look, you have a smart, capable woman who is, in charge of all of this stuff going on. Like, you have a role model that you can look up to within the sci-fi realm. And it was a bit of a departure from the typical female characters that you would see in a lot of, the sci-fi shows and things like that. Even with Leia being very, very capable, there's certain aspects to Leia where it's just like, it's not as.
You're talking about Leia in Star Wars?
Yeah.
She was a little girl with an attitude, in my opinion. I mean, she didn't express.
And there's no underwear in space, so
That's right.
Yeah, whole sex slave Leia, whatever.
Yeah.
This is closed carry. This is open carry.
Price brings the sword. That would be Ensign Ricky. Let's assemble a team to teleport to the surface of that hostile planet. Johnson, get over here. It'd be Ensign Ricky, you're on.
But you think about even following that thing, Star Wars, when it first came out, you had a very diverse crew. You had
yes,
it was multiracial, what do you call it, country or whatever.
Well,
Star Trek.
It was the perfect expression of DEI, the diversity, inclusion, or equity and inclusion.
Yeah.
Right. Because it not only had all the different folks from our planet, but it had a shitload of people from other planets. Jabba the Hutt was, that was one of the nastiest looking kind of creatures out there.
But the original filmed character was not. If you've ever seen those,
Anyway.
Well, yeah, the original character was supposed to be a guy.
A guy.
Yeah.
He just looked like a fat black marketeer.
Big Wookiee.
Yeah.
And even Sulu, and talking about diversity, you have a gay Japanese guy that gets his own ship. Oh, the biggest little captain.
We didn't know he was gay.
We didn't know. It wasn't until much later.
Oh,
but
yeah,
I always kind of wanted to see more adventures on the Excelsior with Sulu. I think that would have been fun.
Cool. I loved it. George Takei has ruined his original portrayal of Sulu for me because of his politics.
Goes back to that what we were talking about. As soon as they open their mouth and they start getting noisy and vocal on the behalf of whoever it is they've adopted for their own need to express their wonderfulness and to some victim they've defined.
I love the actors though. I love the actors though that are like, I'm an actor, dude. Just stop asking me those questions. Like, everybody else just needs to shut up. Can we just go back to doing our jobs? It's like,
I'm here to create imagination.
Right.
You're talking about people you meet. I remember.
Sarah, you're right. Sarah says you have to separate the character and the actor, and I do to great significance. I do. I don't care what anybody wants to believe, politically, whatever it might be, when they become activists for it, it turns me off.
Yeah,
It would be really the same thing if it was somebody that I agreed with their politics, but their politics overwhelm their persona as an actor, then I'm done. And Robert De Niro's ruined it.
As an example on De Niro, I mean, as skanky as he is, have you seen The Irishman?
Yes.
Yes, I saw that.
Exceptional, in my opinion, and one of the only movies you could potentially sit through for 4 hours.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see the one on the Osage. It's got why am I blanking on everybody today? De Niro is in it.
Oh, killing the October Moon.
Killers of the, what is it?
I think it's Killers of the
Flower Moon.
Flower Moon.
Yeah.
Is it Flower Moon or is it October Moon? Or was it something with a moon and it came out in October?
Yeah,
Killers of the Flower Moon. Sarah put it in. And De Niro's in that. DiCaprio is in that, and he's supposed to be really good in that. And I want to see that, even though De Niro's in it. I got to cancel out because I'm not going to see it as a De Niro movie. I just know he's in it.
There was a movie that I watched the other day, Copland. It's a Sylvester Stallone movie. Like, it has a bunch of people from like the 80s and 90s in it, and got Ray Liotta, a few other people. I can't think of their names right now, but like out of like kind of nowhere, all of a sudden, there's Bobby De Niro, and I'm like, whoa, wait, what? And he doesn't even have a huge role. Like, he has an important role, but he was not super present in the movie. And it's like weird. He's got like this like bad, like late 80s longish hair going on, and like a child molester mustache left over from the 70s. But like, it is so weird seeing him in a movie, because that came out in the 90s. And to see him in a role where he is not the focal point, Stallone was actually the focal point, but it's like, how do you have somebody who's a heavy hitter and has been for a long time, like De Niro, being, basically a supporting role?
Right.
Like I was saying earlier, there's all of the, at least the stuff I've seen in the last couple of weeks, the major budget movies that have got De Niro in it, nobody wants to go play with him.
Yeah,
because he's built this street cred of he's crap.
Lucky Stone says here, I agree with Sarah Youssef. If I watch something, I don't care about the person. I just judge the actor. Everyone can have their personal beliefs, and that's okay. I am that way, and I have been that way for a long time. I am that way until it becomes an extremist thing. If you want to believe in something, go ahead and believe in it. If you have a political view, have your political view. I don't care. I watch you because you're a brilliant actor. But when I see somebody go off the deep end, I can lose a lot of respect for them, and I cannot erase it's like Marina Sirtis being rude has totally eclipsed the character for me personally. That she played. And so whenever I see her, that's the first thing that comes to my mind, even though I try to overlook it and enjoy the character and I can't enjoy her character because of what I know about what she did. That would be like saying, hey, that guy who's a pedophile, he's still a great actor. I look for the character, not the pedophile. Now that's an extreme, maybe a lame extreme example, but there are people out there that are miserably nasty people.
Yeah.
And
rumor about
Niro
Tom
became that for me.
Yeah, that's what Hanks. Yeah,
that's
Tom
Hanks in that rumor category.
Which one?
Tom Hanks on
the rumor mill. Yeah.
He's supposed to be big on.
That's what happened to Bill Cosby. Yeah.
But you know what they said growing up? Never meet your heroes. Never meet your heroes.
Well,
and now in the digital world we live in, it makes it so easy for them to put out their political views, their ideology. And, and it goes back to what it is, you must be able to back up your opinions and beliefs And if you're dumb enough to put them so somebody can get a sound clip, back it up with your wallet, because look at Disney. Disney is losing tons of money.
They are.
And it goes back to what he said about Trump. Trump said, you go woke, you go broke. Yeah. Everything that's woke goes to shit. They have killed Iron Man off, and that's the only reason I watch Marvel. My business partner, he got me into Iron Man. I'm thinking, I don't want to watch this shit. I'm a grown man. I'm not watching cartoons. But I bought into the whole Iron Man shit because, he had this attitude. And they even asked him, what are you when you take off the suit and all this? He said, billionaire, playboy, excentraire, give off a whole list of shit to Captain America. Like, fuck you, dude. I'm your boy. All right. If you
it's like, speaking to Sarah and other people here, like John Voight. He's the opposite of De Niro. He is a very conservative voice out there, but to me, he's gone extreme. But he's also not making new movies either. But
he does make new stuff, but it's all.
I look at John Voight and I go, "Oh, John, don't go so far. You're an actor." But now he's moved on from that, I guess, and he's doing his political thing. Okay, more power to you.
That's like
still making movies, and it's like, dude, you've lost that anonymity of being an actor to play any part you want to play, and you put this persona to yourself. And I think John Voight has too. He's just not doing the acting anymore.
Well, on that point, one of the things I think is an interesting observation is you look at the characters that are out there making a difference right now. They are clearly over the target. They are being shot at from all angles. So you've got, the Brands, you got the Carlsons, you've got the Musks. You've got now Alex Jones, who's been in that firing range for a long time. You have all of these people that, Dave Chappelle, his shit. They're trying to give Bill Burr crap, and he's always been himself. Chappelle's always been himself. Yeah. Denzel Washington is one of the ones who said, I'm not working with De Niro, apparently.
Yep.
He's always been himself. These are the difference between the people that mouth off with something that doesn't make any sense or sounds like it needs some therapy. Are the ones that you go, Now,
what are they having De Niro do the Academy Awards? Because I heard the same thing about all those names, Denzel Washington and a couple other you mentioned, saying they're not going to work with De Niro. I just heard a thing in the news today where all these actors were saying they were asked to do the Academy Awards and they aren't going to do it. To host
what they need is Ricky Gervais to be just the dude all the time.
Yeah.
In fact, JP, you remind me a lot of him.
Yeah, I like Ricky Gervais.
I don't care.
The thing that is common among these people is they speak their mind. When Musk just flat, he didn't say "fuck you."
No, he did.
"Go fuck yourself."
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Okay? And that was right to the people that he said, "Keep your money. Go fuck yourself if you're going to be this stupid." And so it's people speaking, individuals with authenticity, using their own personality to speak truth to bullshit, and doing it with abandon. And there's more and more of that going on. And I'm loving the shit out of it. It's highly entertaining.
Yeah. You think about it. They picked a fight with the richest man on the planet. If anybody has the bucks to back his balls, it's Elon,
right?
And that's he don't play by their rules.
Like you said to Apple, he said, hey, fuck you, Apple. I don't need your advertising.
No, he said that to all of them.
It's like, cool, good on you. All right, guys, it's the end of the show. It's, 11:06. That went quick tonight. So I got to get going because I got to get up early. And very early
we
tomorrow.
know what's going on with the kids out of the house.
Yeah. No, that took place.
You got this honey-do list, and she's 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah. No. You're wrong. They're demoing someone's bedroom right now to put in the sauna and hot tub.
That's right.
That's.
Yeah, that was 3:30 this afternoon. Right now it's night time. She's got to get up at 5:30 and go work at the thrift store tomorrow morning. So she's got to be up early. So I got to stop making noise doing radio.
There you go.
So But I want to thank you guys for all being here. It was a fun show, fun topic. Scotty getting some shh, says Field Guy. Yeah. Now we're already past that. So
it's good so for nice. Once a week.
It's so nice to actually sit down next to my wife watching TV, and some kid it's not the 14-year-old boy. It's usually the 8-year-old girl, now 9-year-old girl, jumps in the middle.
Right.
And oh no, you guys don't. Gross. You're touching. Gross. The 12-year-old. Oh, that's just gross. You know, we tease the kids all the time with it, you know.
Oh, how the world changes.
So, Mom, what are you going to do while we're gone? And, you know, Rainey says because the 12-year-old thinks she can shock us with her shock humor of a 12-year-old. Sexual nature, you know, not overboard or anything, but they get that way. So we just give it right back. Oh, man, you know, oh, Mom and Dad. Yeah, we're going to have sex right on that couch when you're gone.
Oh, God.
Gross. Oh, gross. And
maybe they'll stop asking the question, right?
Yeah. Like, you keep asking, we'll tell you.
Well, maybe they'll think twice.
Grandma and Grandpa had plastic on the couch. All right, that's all I'm saying.
That's right. That's right. Well, I'm the grandpa. She's no grandma yet. So
I'm saying. But you think about it, Grandma and Grandpa always had plastic on their furniture.
Yes, we do, Jay. Here we love Ruben Fast Horse.
That's right.
I will get some updates as I put together a GoFundMe to hopefully help them out a little bit.
All right,
and see where that goes. So, Sarah's traumatized.
I was going to tell JP, send me your info because if Scotty or Wendy never did, I'll try to find you a friend. I'm easy.
What are you on?
As in drugs or?
Oh, I was going to say, have you seen my medicine cabinet? The VA works, right?
What am I on?
Really?
No, Facebook, TikTok. What? Yeah.
Oh, you're talking to him. Oh,
yeah. Okay. I mean, I'm friends with Scotty, so.
I don't want to dig through those 4,900 friends he's got.
Yeah.
Actually,
I just thought about it. I have my thing where it's like it's supposed to be not searchable. So I'll hop on there. I'll find you and I'll send you a friend request.
Yeah, because Friday night we did Scotty's slot and we went 5.5 hours. We could have used you.
Jesus, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sarah I could do a 3-hour slot. I could do a 3-hour show every day if I didn't have to work for a living. I got to work for a living.
Yeah, kind of throws a monkey wrench into things.
Yeah, you know, one of those sad little things called money to pay the bills. So
you don't want to live indoors or eat. You know, you could quit work.
Right. I know. I'll just make this show commercial, and I'll make all my money here.
Yeah.
Right?
No. Hey, we're like everybody else. We get to. That's the reason I went looking for sponsors because I figure I'll never make a dime off of YouTube. I will say something that chaps somebody's ass and they'll say, "Oh, you're demonetized."
All you got to do, I think, is have somebody on the show to be like, hold on, wait a minute. That's a perfect example of things you can't say. And, and it's like, they were doing an exam. Damn it. Okay, we can't demonetize them. You take the legs right out from under it.
That doesn't work, though.
No.
It doesn't work.
I'm trying here, right? I'm trying to come up with stuff.
One thing that was innocuous, as far as I'm concerned,
right?
But it went against the policies of, and we didn't even talk about the topic. He just brought it up, and
it was in the comment.
Done. And I got a hit on YouTube and a strike against me.
Oh Lord!
And so I get 2 more of those. Is it 1 more or 2? You get 2 or 3?
I think it's 3.
I think you're up to 2
they'll take down your site. So every single video I have, everything gone.
Yeah.
Because you violated their policy.
Well, like you get guys like Brandon Pereira, the AK guy, he gets demonetized all the time.
Yeah.
It's pretty bad.
So I should do a show on Mr. Beast. That's not ringing a bell. Who's Mr. Beast?
He's like the top YouTuber that's bringing in, I don't know, 15 million a month.
Oh, that guy. Yeah.
I think that's what she's talking about.
Yeah, he'll have to pay $1 million to come on my show.
I thought you found me on the other site that JP asked me what I'm on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. To get that kind of audience on YouTube, you've had to have captured a little lightning in a bottle with your topic, or I look at the things that my kids watch on YouTube that are the most banal bullshit piece of crap I've ever seen, and they're making millions of dollars a month, and I'm like, I don't get it.
And we hate them because they're making so much money a month on something.
Right.
All I gotta do is do clothing trials.
I only hate them because I should be making that much per month.
Exactly.
I searched
I can't get $4 a month. So
that was coming in. All these women now, they put a little thing at the front of it. Says some of the clothes may be transparent. This is not intended for a sexual whatever gratification. And they're all, and they might put a video up, and 4 hours later it's got 1 million views. Calls her basically
naked.
Yeah, and but that's
how they clickbait too.
Yeah.
So I told Rainey, I said, we could use you to really expand my show, my base, and
I'm trying here. I just ain't like that no more. I'm losing weight by the day.
Right.
So
I got to get out of here. So you got to do too. Michael, see you later, brother. Good to have you.
I just sent you a friend request on Facebook.
Oh, there you go. He probably heard that.
JP, make sure you tag me so I can get you onto the next marathon.
Okay.
The next marathon.
You guys talk about that off air. Good night, Jason. Professor, good to have you here.
Thanks for letting me come in and wag my tongue. Appreciate it.
Sounds good. All right, everybody. Thank you for being here. Thanks for being part of the show. And thanks for continuing to be part of the show. I appreciate you. So let's get out of here. I'm just looking for my exit music. It's right there. So all of you, you know what? Live long and prosper. And that's Star Trek.
Join us every weeknight at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, 10 p.m. Eastern. The Intrepid Radio Program, a Scotty Roberts Productions broadcast.